Welcome to a live training. I'm going to do a lot of these on Mondays, but today we're going to be talking about the best ways to practice in the winter. Outside my window, actually the sun keeps coming in and out, so the color will be interesting on this video, but it is windy and cold. I think it was the wind chill was down to like -6. So this is a live training all about how to best train in the winter so that we can have an amazing spring, amazing summer, and really reach all of our goals this upcoming year. Please put a comment down in the chat if you have some questions. I'll try to answer your questions as quickly as I can. I'll also be doing a Q&A towards the end as well, and I'll try to answer your questions there. So I'm doing this live on YouTube, but also I'm streaming it on TikTok just for fun to do a live. So, all right, well, let's get started. The first thing that I wanted to talk about are the 3 winter practice traps that kill your improvement. And the first one of those is practicing just to practice mode. And I see this all the time. You see it when you see people practicing at the range or at a simulator over the winter. And I get into this trap as well myself. And it's just like, I'm practicing just to practice. And it's like, okay, I have these goals. I have these things I want to do this year, and I need to practice my golf game. How do I work on my golf game? Well, I'm just going to book that simulator, book an hour, and I'm just going to go and I'm just going to practice. And that's all I'm going to do. And I'm just there and I'm practicing. In fact, I have an hour that I've booked this simulator. I've paid $30-40 for this hour, and I'm going to hit as many golf balls as I possibly can in that hour because I am practicing, and I am practicing golf. If you asked me what I was practicing, I would have absolutely no idea. And I would just be like, well, I'm practicing. And I, just check that off my list. I get home and they're like, oh, what'd you do this week? Well, I practiced golf. I had 1 hour of practice. And I was talking about it a little bit this week, but I would much rather you practice for that hour and hit 10 shots that were intentional, where you're working on exactly what you wanted, you were visualizing what you wanted to do, than to just practice to practice. So the winter practice traps that kill most of your improvement, is number 1, practicing just to practice. And again, it's what I call practice just to practice mode. And it's an easy trap to fall in to, even if you're just like working on it at your home or wherever it is, and you're like, oh, I'm working on my putting. So I just went out there and I just randomly hit putts for an hour. And I'm not actually doing anything. I'm just practicing to practice. So that's number 1 of the winter practice traps that kill your improvement. Number 2 is over fixing mechanics with no structure or instruction. And I see this a lot too, where people are like, oh, I'm really working on this move. I've got to get my turn in this. And I saw this really good tip on YouTube, and I just know that this pro was working on this, like Rory is working on this, or Tiger or Scotty was working on this, and so I really need to work on this. Like, or even I heard a lot lately where it's like, oh wow, I'm just working on my grip, Scotty works on the grip, I'm working on my grip. I'm like, well, what grip do you have? And have you got a quality instructor? Have you gotten a coach? Have you gotten a lesson where you're actually working on that? Is that actually something you should be working on? Do you even know what you should be working on? And I think this is definitely a trap that we all get into, or we all can get into, especially over the winter. I think this over fixing mechanics part of it also kind of comes along. It could be hidden in this, oh, I'm going to rebuild my swing. I'm going to rebuild my swing this winter, and I'm going to come out in the spring because my swing is just, it's total crap, and I'm just going to rebuild my swing. And I just think that is definitely not the best way to go. And there's definitely better ways to practice besides that, especially if you're just getting random tips on YouTube and you don't have a quality instructor or coach that's actually giving you a lesson and helping you work on something that's good for your game. So that's number 2 of the winter practice traps that kill your improvement. Number one was practicing just a practice mode. And number two was overfixing mechanics with no structure instruction. And one of the things that you can do to kind of get out of that overfixing mechanics mode is to ask yourself, why am I working on this? And if you don't have a really clear, concise answer to that, you should probably stop working on something if you don't know what you're doing or why you're doing it. So that's a good thing. So number three of the winter practice traps that kill your improvement is practicing without tracking or reflecting, or reflection, I should say. But practicing without tracking or reflection. If you're practicing and you're not tracking what you're working on, or you're not tracking your progress, again, we're kind of going back into this practicing just a practice mode. A lot of times we're practicing too fast. Again, we're just raking ball after ball. We've booked a simulator and we're ready to, we've got an hour. We're just working on ourselves this winter. I'm going to take an hour. I'm not even going to bring you, but I'm just going to sit there at the simulator and work for an hour. And I'm going to hit as many balls as I can. I hit a ball. That's not quite what I want. Hit another one, hit another one. And we're just going too fast and there's no real intention. And we're not actually working on anything specific. We're not training ourselves and we're not actually getting better. And it's such an easy trap to fall into. You're just you're training too fast and you don't have any real direction on what you're trying to do or what you're actually working on in the practice session. And so that is the three main winter practice traps that kill your momentum. One is practicing just a practice. Very easy to get into practice, just a practice mode. Number two is overfixing mechanics with no structure or instruction. The question is, why am I working on this? And if you can't answer that, you're probably doing it wrong. And number three is practicing without tracking or reflecting on what you do. And that part of it is you could practice, you could write it down like, oh, I practiced blank, 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 worked on my wedges, driver, whatever, but not actually reflecting on and tracking to see what actually did I get better? Am I making progress? Is this working for me? Is this something I should be working on? So again, we're doing this best winter practice training live. If you have any questions, please put those in the chat and I'll get to those either now or I'm going to do a little Q&A at the end and try to scroll back through any of the comments. So thanks for joining, guys. So the second section that I wanted to talk about today is practicing with identity instead of just practicing to practice. And what does that mean? When you say the word identity, what does that mean? Identity, I'm talking about myself, and I'm talking about the way I view myself and my identity. And this is really an important part of the mental golf training that I teach my students and are in my courses. And how can you do that? Well, the first thing is that I teach, and I'm just going to kind of give a broad view in this live training. If you'd like specific training, of course, you can get onto my results training course or book a lesson with me, and we can go dive deep into this. This is one of my favorite things I'd love to teach, and I've just seen some really, really good improvement when players actually start changing their identity and start seeing themselves as as the best version of themselves. So, but the first part is practicing as the player that you want to be. So what does that actually mean? So what I want you to do is to start seeing yourself as the best version of yourself. If your goal is to be a scratch handicap golfer, I want you to start seeing yourself as a scratch golfer. And I know it's a little difficult with golf because when you're actually hitting the shots, you're not actually seeing the results or you put your scorecard down. But I want you to start seeing yourself as a scratch golfer. And in fact, I don't mind if in your mind, when somebody asks what your handicap is, I don't care if you tell them I'm a scratch handicap, even though you're a 15 or 12, I don't care about that. I mean, we don't want to necessarily lie or make things up, but this is all a part of seeing yourself as the best version of yourself. So the next time somebody asks what your handicap is, in your mind, just think, oh, I'm a scratch. This is what the GIN handicap is right now. but in your mind, you know that you're a scratch golfer. And so you want to just start seeing yourself as that best version of yourself that you're trying to work towards this year, what you're going to have. And the more that you can really see who you are and feel the feeling of that person and becoming that, and then asking yourself, well, what does this version of me feel? So, as a plus handicap, as a scratch handicap, as somebody that always shoots in the 80s, 90s, or always breaks 100, what does this person do in seeing yourself that way? And then the next step is we want to let go of fear-based reps. And so we want to stop focusing on our bad shots when we're practicing. Golf is not a game of perfect. In fact, I've got that book over there from Bob Rotella. And golf is not a game of perfect. You're not going to hit a shot exactly perfectly each time. But the key is I want you to work towards visualizing that best shot you're going to hit, hitting the best shot you possibly can, but also not being scared of hitting a poor shot. Because golf, again, it's not a game of perfect. We hit off shots, we miss shots, we don't hit it where we want to go. That's a lot of what we do in golf. But I want you to stop being scared of hitting a poor shot in a situation, even if that's, hitting a shot into a hazard or whatever it is, out of bounds or in a hazard. I don't want you to be scared of hitting that shot. I want you to just focus and just allow the shot to happen. And I want you to and I want you to stop focusing on the bad shots. The poor shots, the more energy and focus you put onto the poor shots, the more you will have poor shots and the more that you will be seeing those shots. And I don't want you to be scared of hitting bad shots. And I want you to stop focusing on the bad shots. In fact, I might talk about it a little later if I have more time, but I've got a specific routine that I teach with my students on how to actually reframe a shot and how to recover after hitting a poor shot or a shot we don't want to hit. So, and then the next part about practicing with identity instead of just practicing to practice is training with confidence and training not just the mechanics. We want to get to the point with our swing where we're confidently hitting our swing or swinging the way we want to do it. But most importantly, we want to train with confidence. We want to step up to that first tee. We want to be able to step up to that shot and hit the best shot we possibly can. Like when we're actually playing golf, we want to step up to that first tee and we want to confidently hit the best shot we possibly can. And the only way that we can do that is if we practice that. And the best time to practice that is over the winter. So practicing so training with confidence, working towards every shot being the best shot that you can possibly hit. I'm going to take some water. Excuse me. So practicing with identity instead of just practicing to practice. There's three parts of that. We're talking about practicing as a player that you want to be, starting to see yourself as the best version of yourself. We want to be letting go of fear-based reps. We want to not be focusing on the bad shots. And we want to be training with confidence, not just training our swing mechanics, because we want to work towards every shot being the best shot that we can possibly hit at the moment. So no matter what shot you hit at that moment, that's the best shot you hit. And so whether it's a bad shot, if we label it as a bad shot or a good shot, is really not that important because we actually are just training each shot. And the key is we want to be instilling confidence. So if we hit that shot, be like, well, that's fine. That's the best shot I could have possibly hit at that time. And then I'm going to move on and try to hit a better shot on the next shot. So this identity work is a core part of my results training framework that I have in my results training course. That is for sale online. If you want to join that, please go to johnlemmon.com. I've got links below and all that stuff. If you have any questions about that, let me know. And yeah, if you guys have any questions during this live training, please put your questions in the chat. Or I'm also streaming this on TikTok. If you want to just put a note in there of the questions, I'm going to do a little Q&A at the end and try to make sure I answer everybody's questions. All right. So the next section, the next part of the best ways to practice this winter and to maximize your game and have the best 2026 in the spring and the summer when the weather warms up here in the north is to how to practice indoors without hitting a single golf ball. Now, I know that a lot of you are thinking, well, okay, this is great if you've got time to go to simulator, if you've got a buddy with a simulator in the garage, or if you have a simulator in your garage. But how can I practice indoors without hitting a single golf ball? And that's what I want to talk about today. So one of the first parts, or the most important parts of the mental practice that I want you to be working on this winter, is visualizing shots, visualizing reps. So this is going to be called visualization of reps. And you can do this. I mean, I can do this right now just sitting in my chair. I can actually visualize myself going through my entire pre-shot routine and hitting the shot exactly where I want to hit it. So another way to do this is to meditate. And during this meditation, seeing yourself hitting your best shots and playing your best. And in fact, I have a meditation album that is for sale on my website. And that is exactly what you do in that meditation. I've got short 10-minute meditations where we're visualizing your best drive, we're visualizing your best round, we're visualizing the best shot, the best putt, visualizing shooting your best score. But this is something that you can just take 5 or 10 minutes a day and just start visualizing actually playing your best. And this is something that you don't even need any room. You don't need space. You can do this. There's no excuse why we can't be all working on this over the winter to come out in 2026 and to play our best. So the first part of how to practice indoors without hitting a single golf ball is to visualize reps. Meditation is a very powerful way of doing this. But even if you just sit there, even like if you sit there and close your eyes right before you go to bed and just start visualizing playing your best round. Maybe you can just picture your home course and just think, okay, on the first tee, I hit a nice drive. The second shot, I hit on the green and I made the putt. And just kind of visualize shot for shot your entire round on your home course. And I'm telling you, being able to see that and visualizing those great shots is really going to get you a step above when you start playing in the spring and actually playing on the course. The next shot, or the next thing you can do without hitting a single ball, is work on your pre-shot routine and just rehearse that over and over, even without room to swing. Like you don't even need to actually take an actual swing to work on your pre-shot routine. And that's what's so great about this, that you can just work on your mental and even your physical routine without, I mean, you could just grab a golf club and stand there and just walk through a room. I mean, you don't need very much room. Basically, what you could do is just grab a golf club, stand behind, picture that you have a golf. I mean, you can even put a golf ball down on the carpet or wherever you are, and visualize. Let's say we're visualizing hitting an iron shot into a green. Grab the club in one hand, go through your full pre-shot routine. Look down at the ball, look out to what your yardage is, picture exactly the yardage you're trying to hit. Do exactly the same thing that you do on your pre-shot routine when you're actually playing, but just visualize that and just visualize hitting the shot. The way I would do it is I would sit the ball on the ground, I'd grab the club, I would visualize the shot, I would think about the yardage, I would check the club to make sure I have the exact club that I need to hit that shot. I would stand up beside it, I would take a practice swing. And again, even if you don't have enough room to actually take a practice swing, or even if you don't have a golf club in your hand, you could just actually pretend like you have a golf club. Again, visualizing things like this is so important. And then just go through your mental routine on what you do. I stand there, I take a practice swing, I step up the ball. After the practice swing, I visualize the shot going exactly where I want it to go. And then I step up to the ball, take one last look at the target, so I know exactly where I want this golf ball to go, and then I go ahead and pull the trigger and hit the shot. And so again, that's something that you can visualize and work on and just get those reps, get those mental reps in there and work on your pre-shot routine, rehearse that even when you're not actually out on the golf course. I remember reading or hearing about how I believe it was Olympic athletes and how they visualized all their shots. So let's say they were doing a diving routine or doing a dive, right? And so they would sit there before they go out, and they had spent hours and hours and hours and tens of thousands of hours just rehearsing actually what they're doing in their mind without actually doing the physical pool work, actually not diving off of a diving board. And they tested them and they showed that the muscles, your mind didn't understand the difference between you actually doing it and you just rehearsing it mentally sitting there in a quiet room. And so the interesting part is they tested their brains, and the brains were firing, same neurons and everything were firing even when they weren't actually diving as they were when they really were. So it's just something like this. Anything you can do to develop that pre-shot routine and work on your mental game, it's something very simple that you guys can do while you're sitting at home. I mean, you could even just sit there and go through it. But I think I like to kind of physically get up, walk around, and just picture that routine, picture going through my pre-shot routine and just get that ingrained in my brain. And then another thing you can do to practice indoors without hitting a single ball is to work on some mirror drills. And you can look in the mirror, like I've got a mirror in my office. Over here, I take a golf club. I kind of, even if I don't have a club, I've got a little bit of room. I can't swing like a driver, but I have a wedge that I can put in position. So just look at the mirror, get yourself in position, picture that, and just picture the way that feels and just notice the way that feels. Like look at the mirror, get yourself into the positions, work on the things that you and your coach have figured out, or the drills that you've got that you're working on, and see in the mirror, do a kind of a mirror check with that. And then the big thing is just to start feeling how that feels in your body. Like notice, like when you're swinging to the top, if that's what you're working on, even if you're just working on your setup, like what does that feel like? How does that feel in your left foot? How does that feel in your right foot? How does that feel in your hands? How does the club feel in your hands? I mean, you can do a lot of work to help change your setup, or your grip, or whatever you're working on in swing drills. And you can do a lot of that without having to actually get out and hit a golf shot. I do this all the time. Like when I was working on my grip, I was making my grip a little stronger with my right hand. And I would just pick up a golf club and I would just stand there and get in position. And I would just feel the way that feels. But feel the way it feels in your hands, feel the way the positions are, if that's what you're working on, and just kind of get used to that. And the more you do that, the more your brain will associate that. So the next time you pick up a club when you're actually on the course, your brain will automatically put yourself in that position. That's best for you that you're working on. So that's another one. So these are the how to practice indoors without hitting a single ball. And one other thing that I think is just so important, the fourth one of these is journaling. And I think journaling is very underrated and very, very, very important. The way I would suggest doing it is just to simply have a journal. You don't necessarily have to take a lot of time. You can take 5-10 minutes, but just sit there and write out what are your fears. Like I have two suggestions. Like, what do you think are the things that you're scared of? And then what do you think is holding you back? And just kind of sit there and just start writing things out. Like, well, I'm scared of this. Okay, well, why am I scared of this? What's holding me back? What can I do? And the more you journal, I know I haven't done as much journaling as I'd like to do in the last few months, but the more that I do it, even just 5 or 10 minutes here or there, has really, really helped, because we have all these thoughts and all these things in our mind, and we have all this stuff going on, and it's so nice to get some of that out on paper. And it kind of it takes the sting out of it. It takes kind of the fear out of it. So if I write down like, okay, I'm worried about hitting a bad shot under pressure or missing a putt when I'm on the line to win a tournament. Well, once you write that down, you'll be like, well, I'm practicing, I'm getting better. Why would I be scared of that? And it just kind of takes the fear out of it. Once it lives up in your brain for so long, I feel like it becomes more real. But when you get it down on paper, you're just like, well, that doesn't make any sense. I don't do that. I don't have a history of doing that. Even if I've done it in the past, I'm a better golfer today than I was yesterday. So why would I even worry about that? So journaling is very important. Again, just two suggestions on that to prompt is writing out what your fears are, what you're scared of in your golf game, and then what do you think is holding you back? So, and then the last section here I'm going to go over is why golfers waste winter and how you can be the exception and you can have your best golfing season yet. How can you have your best 2026 when the spring comes here in the north and it warms up, and the summer when you get your league started, you get your tournaments you're playing in, the club championships and all those things? What is the best thing that you can do? And so this is what, and this is going to kind of wrap up this live training. And so here's what I think are the things that golfers do to waste winter and how you can be the exception. So practicing just to practice versus intentional training is one of the most important things that you can do for your golf game, is to have a plan, have an exact script on what you're going to do. If you have an hour to practice, you've booked a simulator for an hour, you need to be working on this. I want to be working on this. I want to be working on this, and make sure that you're incorporating some mental work where you're working on your pre-shot routine, you're visualizing your shot, you're doing all the things that you would do on the course. And the key is to do everything intentionally exactly the same as you were if you were on the golf course hitting an actual shot. Because the whole point of practicing, whether we're practicing indoors, outdoors, whatever we're practicing in a simulator, the whole key of practicing should be so that we're going to be able to play better golf or actually on the golf course, because we all want to shoot lower scores. So that's actually what we're working on. And we want to make sure that we don't lose focus and we don't just practice for practice and we don't have an intention. We want to have an intentional training session and intentionally working towards shooting lower scores. And the best way to do that is to intentionally work on shots and things exactly like you would if you were on the golf course. And the more that you can visualize that, and the more that you can see that in your mind and picture and imagine actually hitting the shot. I don't care if you're just in your garage hitting into a net. If you can visualize the shot that you want to hit and picture a specific hole that you're playing, that can help you so much more than just hitting shot after shot after shot. And another thing that holds golfers back, that they waste their time in the winter, and how you can do something different to be the exception, is doing random drills instead of purposeful reps. So random drills, it's kind of a rampant thing that's going on with there's so much information, and I'm not saying it's good or bad. There's just lots and lots of information on YouTube with clips and things on YouTube that, I mean, it's so easy with the shorts and the reels and TikToks and Instagrams to just get like a quick 30-second, like, oh, wow, this is a great swing tip. Let me work on that. So it's easy to get caught up in that. And I don't want you guys to get caught up in that over the winter. And I don't want you to waste your winter. I want you to have the best 2026 ever. And so the way to do that is to stop doing just random drills like, oh, let's see if this works. Let's see if this works. Instead, work on doing purposeful reps, purposeful training, purposeful shots, purposeful drills. And if you haven't gotten a lesson from somebody, a high quality coach, you may want to do that. So that way you have an actual training and an actual drill that you're actually working on that can actually help your game. I mean, you could go on YouTube right now and see millions of different drills and tips and things like that, where most of them are probably not really helpful for your game. And I really want you guys not to waste the winter. I want you to have the best year ever. And one of the main reasons to do that is to stop doing random drills and to actually work on purpose and purposeful reps with drills that are actually helping your game and your swing. So, and excuse me, I'll get some water. It's a little dry here in the cold Ohio weather. And one more thing that I don't want you to do this winter to waste your time is to hope versus planning. this is kind of a nice distinction where you're just like, wow, I just hope that I'm going to have a great year this year. I just hope that my golf game is going to be better. Well, let's stop hoping. Let's start planning. Let's start putting a plan together, putting a practice plan together. Let's start dreaming big, looking towards what we want to do this year, all the things we want to accomplish. And instead of hoping that that will happen, let's actually put a plan together and start working towards that so we know that that will actually happen going forward. And I think that's a really good way to kind of see, we're over 30 minutes here. So I think that's probably a good way to wrap this up, is to stop hoping and start planning for what you want to do and what your practice is going to be. The more that you plan out your practice, the better. I was listening to the Indiana coach Signetti talking a couple weeks ago. They've got the national championship game tonight, so I'm hoping Indiana wins. No offense to the Miami fans. But he was talking about how they practice. They don't practice for an extreme long period of time. They have very specific, intentional, very well planned out practices, and they do that, and they have been extremely successful. So the more that they plan out and have intention and know exactly what they're working on for each practice, enables them to practice for a shorter period of time to get rest and recover. And obviously they're playing the national championship game, so they're doing pretty well. So I think that's definitely something good that we can work on in our own game, in our own golf game, and to ensure that we have the best 2026 ever. And if you want a simple guide to help guide you through a good system to help you with your planning and your practice and your goal setting this year, check out my results training course. It is for sale on my website, which is johnlemmon.com. I've got links to all that down below. And that would be a great way, a good starting point to help you plan together. It's got some great tools in there. I've got a spreadsheet where you can track everything that you're doing, and you can help plan out that. And if you want some more intense and more specialized training, please reach out. I'd love to sit down and have a lesson with you. I do Zoom lessons all over the world, and I also do in-person lessons. I've been doing those in simulators in the Dayton and Cincinnati area. So please book a lesson if you really want to have the best 2026 and to totally maximize what you're doing that. So I'm going to do a little recap here on what we talked about. For anybody that joined late, the replay of this will be on my YouTube channel. And make sure you check out johnlemmon.com, sign up for my newsletter. That way you'll know exactly what's going on. If I've got any special lesson specials, any more live streams coming out, or anything else going on, check that out. It's got the results training course there, and you can also book lessons as well. So a quick recap of what I talked about on how to have how to best practice this winter. First of all, we talked about the 3 winter practice traps that kill people's improvement. One is to practice just to practice mode. We talked quite a bit about that today. That's number 1, overfixing mechanics with no structure or instruction. If you ask yourself, if you're doing a drill or working on something, if you ask yourself, why am I working on this? And you don't have a good answer, then you probably should stop doing that. And the other part is practicing without tracking or reflecting on what you did. Sometimes we get in this mode where we're practicing too fast, and we have no real direction on what we're doing. Also, if you guys have any questions, please put that in the chat. I might wrap this up in a little bit, do a little Q&A, and I'd love to answer all of your questions. But the second section that we went over today was practicing with identity instead of practicing just to practice. So I want you to practice as the player that you want to become and to start to seeing yourself as the best version of yourself. And if you can start seeing yourself as that scratch golfer, as that golfer that always breaks 80, that person that always shoots under par, and start seeing that version of yourself, it will get you that much closer to actually reaching those amazing goals this year. And we want to let go of fear-based reps. We're going to stop focusing on bad shots, poor shots. They happen, but we won't want to focus on those. We want to learn from them, but not focus on them. And we want to train with confidence. We want to train not just with mechanics. We want to work towards every shot being the best shot that you can hit at that moment, and not just working on swing mechanics, because we want to start visualizing and using our mind for better practice. And then the third part is how to practice indoors without hitting a single ball. And I had 4 sections there. We talked about visualizing reps. Visualizing reps, you can just sit on the couch and actually visualize reps. You can meditate. You can see yourself hitting your best shots and playing your best. It's an easy way to do that, very quick. And again, you don't even have to go outside or even have a golf club. I also talked about pre-shot routine and rehearsing that, and you can do that without even having a club in your hand. Just see the swing you want. And also, we talked about doing some mirror drills, seeing yourself in the mirror, checking yourself in the mirror, and seeing where you are. And then when you're doing a mirror check, make sure that you feel the way your body feels in those positions. And that will help you get in those positions when you're actually swinging the club. And then we talked about journaling, about writing out. The 2 things that I talked about is writing out what you're scared of and what's holding you back. And then the wrap up here was just why most golfers waste their winter practice and how you can be the exception. And we want to get out of the practice scene to just practice mode. We want to have intentional training. Instead of doing random drills, we want to have purposeful practice. And also, we want to stop hoping, we want to stop hoping that we're going to have a great 2026. And we want to start planning and expecting and visualizing that. So if you guys want any more help with your game, I've got my results training course. It's only $49. That's live on johnlemmon.com. I'll have notes down there below. I would love to work with you. I'm looking for a few more students to work with over this year. I do Zoom lessons all across the country on Eastern Standard Time and across the world, and also do in-person live lessons with people in the Dayton and Cincinnati area. So let me check to see if we have any questions here, and I will answer those as we wrap this up. So let me check on here. And I really appreciate everybody joining me today on this live. All right, let's see. We've got somebody asked a question. Let's see. All right, here we go. Somebody asked, what is the best way to work on my putting if I'm not, on a practice green or whatever? Well, I think you can work on your putting without actually even putting if you need to. Putting is an easy thing. You can just putt on your carpet or whatever. But I think one of the most important things that you can work on for your putting is to work on your pre-shot routine and getting used to visualizing and seeing the ball go in the hole. So when you're practicing, and even if you are working on practicing on a practice green, like I was doing this the other day, I was working on the practice green, and I was, instead of just randomly hitting golf balls, just trying to make them, instead I was going through my entire pre-shot routine where I would look behind the hole, I would line up the ball like I normally do with the line pointing towards the hole where I know where I'm hitting it. I would visualize it going in. I would step up next to it, do my full pre-shot routine, take my practice swing, and then I would step up, look at it, work on that. The other thing that I was working on is my breathing. Breathing's very important, especially when you're putting. And I'll just throw this tip in for everybody at the end. But think about this: when you're holding your breath, what are you feeling? You're feeling like this, like everybody kind of hold your breath, like you're feeling like tight and uptight like this, right? And when you're breathing in, you're kind of breathing up and in and kind of tight. And so if you're holding your breath, or if you're breathing on the inside, if you're breathing in, it's going to be more of a tight holding motion, and it's not going to be this relaxed, flowy putting motion. So one of the things I've been working on is making sure that I have incorporated when I'm breathing and how I'm breathing into my pre-shot putting routine, and to make sure that I'm breathing out and relaxing right before I'm taking my putting stroke. So that's a quick tip that I'll throw in there, guys. But please reach out, check out johnlemmon.com or coachlemmon.com. And I've got my results training course there. If you'd like some one-on-one personal lessons, can be booked there as well. Questions, comments, sign up for my newsletter. Please just reach out. I'm on all social medias, Facebook, Instagram. I'm on the TikTok, which we're doing a TikTok live. Make sure you follow me there, and follow on the subscribe to the YouTube channel. Like this if you can. There'll be a replay. The replay will be up if you guys didn't catch this whole thing. I should have the replay up shortly. So, all right, on the YouTube channel. All right, cheers, guys. Thanks so much for joining, and have a wonderful day.